Have you ever seen a print that's actually raised up off the surface? Something you can kind of like run your finger across and feel? That is 3D texture UV printing. And today I'm going to show you exactly what it is and how to do it. It's done with a UV printer, and these have rapidly been coming down in price and size. And there are several now desktop flatbed UV printers that can do 3D texture on the market, including I have behind me the Eufimake E1, and I also have an Xtool Omni. So when you are shopping for one of these printers, you hear these words like flat raised and relief and texture, and nobody's actually showing you what the difference is, how you're going to use it. So let me fix that. I printed the same design a whole bunch of times, and once you see them side by side, it is going to become really clear and click exactly what these different like modes do. First, real quick, is this the same as 3D printing? No, no, no. A 3D printer uses filament. It's got long strands that are kind of wound around a spool. They get melted as they print, and then they build up basically an object from nothing. That's not what we're talking about. This is not that. A UV printer prints onto something that already exists, like a coaster or a magnet or a canvas or a phone case, piece of wood. It stacks the ink up as it prints, so part of your design physically rises off the surface. So it is not actually 3D printing. It's more like really thick ink that you can feel. And that's why it's called 3D texture printing. Okay, here is the shortcut that makes all of this make sense. There are only two questions that you have to basically ask. One, does your print have height, or is it going to be flat and smooth? And two, if it has height, does the whole design rise up evenly, or are different parts rising and lower, like a mountain, basically, a mountain range? So some areas are higher than others. Those are basically the two things that you need to know. That's it. Every one of these modes basically answers those two questions. So before I show you them side by side, one last thing. When texture is building up, it is building with white ink. The top layer is the only layer that has color. In other words, the height is built entirely of white, and then that color is just a thin skin that's basically printed on top. And that's why a tall relief piece uses so much white. The dimension that you're seeing is literally white ink, and the color just passes as the last pass. So that's why when Xtool is saying that they're O1 Omni with the dual UV, they're saying that that is ideal for texture and relief. It's because it has the dual UV head, and so it can put down at texture at a faster rate. On the E1 here, which I have right now, and what I did all these samples on, it's doing it with just one ink channel, and it's handling it great. It's just slower. I'm going to tell you how much slower. Well, I'm not going to tell you compare it, but I will tell you how long some of these took. Okay, let me show you some of these side by side so that you can understand what the difference in all these different textures means, because the technique names that you're going to see in the software, they don't make a whole lot of sense, and they're not super obvious, at least not to me. Okay, flat. This is just the one that you're probably going to use honestly the most. It is literally flat. There is no dimension. The ink just goes down, it cures instantly, completely smooth. See how I can just run my finger and there's basically nothing. Okay, it's printed like a photo right on the object. It's gorgeous, but there is no dimension. Honestly, this is what you will likely use the most of the time. It is the fastest and it uses the least amount of ink. Okay, now watch what happens when we add height. This right here, same design obviously, is flat raised. Flat raised takes an entire design or a section of the design. In this case, I just did the orange part of the basketball, and it picks it up and lifts it off the surface evenly like a plateau. The top of the raised part is flat. So I like to think of it as like a flat top buzz cut, okay? It's all completely even. So I'm gonna give you, hopefully you'll be able to see that the basketball there is raised up. And you can actually see there how it's all white except the very top is the orange. Okay, you can see and feel that whole part, right? The entire rest of the design, including all of this other text and the white, I set those separately to flat. So they all printed flat, except for the ball, just to give you the more dramatic look. Okay, now, next, this is what we call relief. And this one is what gets people, or maybe it's just me. Relief doesn't lift your design as one block. It kind of like sculpts it. So I did this one with just part of it, and I'm gonna try to see so you guys can hopefully see. It almost looks like a skateboard ramp. Okay, so the part of the design is more flat, and then it kind of raises up. So it's like it goes like this, like that, just like that. So if you look at that, you can see that part of the design, usually the middle, is thicker. Now, most people are probably not going to want something that looks like this, but if you apply it to the entire design, this is what you get. So this entire design is raised up and it has this dimension to it. Okay. So if you took, let's just say we were able to take these pencils off of here. If you took them off and put them flat together, the two flat sides together, it would almost look like an actual like cylinder or sphere or pencil. Okay. So it's not raised up in chunks. The whole thing, it looks like your finger is like pushing through something, right? So the entire part is raised up. And how this is done, or how the software determines what parts and how much to raise them, is dependent on the colors and the shading in the artwork. And it turns into these curves. So you can see these pencils, they're rounded, like I said, like real tubes, with the highest part is in the middle and the lowest part is on the edge, because the way the artwork was shaded. So Relief takes that shading and kind of just makes it physically three-dimensional against your image, and your image itself, the contrast and the settings that you adjust in the height map are really what is going to affect this. And what's great is that you can get a preview usually beforehand. So I will tell you that this is not fast for printing. Okay, so this little teeny magnet right here, 23 minutes. Okay, next up, we have what's called pattern texture. Now, I was thinking, oh, pattern texture is gonna like put little dimples in my basketball. No, that is not what it does. Pattern texture, again, depends a lot on the image itself and the way that you adjust that height map. So I like to think, actually, that it looks kind of like royal icing on a sugar cookie, okay? So instead of the full image being domed out like we see in Relief, in pattern texture, each individual part or layer is its own dome. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So you've got, when you look at these two side by side, and I'll put up a separate picture, but you can see that like these whole pencils are domed out, the whole thing. In this one, each individual piece is its own dome. So this one also works on contrast. So what you can see here is that the black, the darkest colors, are the flattest, and the lightest colors are the highest. And what's happening here, you almost lose a lot of the black in the pencil itself because it's basically being suppressed down. That's why I said it looks like royal icing to me, because the other colors are printing basically on top. It is there, it's just more difficult to see. And then I did one other one, and this one also was done with pattern texture, but this one I inversed. So in this one, the black outline is actually the tallest part. Okay, so this is going to take some experimenting, but I did want you to know, like, what is the difference between all of these? Now, each software is going to be a little bit different. The terms should basically be the same, like the Relief and then there's also an option that you can add custom textures. But what I did want you to know is at least have a baseline of like, what do some of these textures modes really mean? What does the terminology mean? What is it going to look like when I do it? Take small items though and test, because otherwise you're going to just kind of be guessing if you're not super familiar and you're very new. So that's why I wanted to do this, to give you guys an idea of what all these different modes are, what they actually look like when they are printed. Okay, so that is it for now. I have lots of content on UV printers and obviously more coming. Again, this is 3D texture printing with a UV printer. Okay, so, and this is only one of the things that a UV printer can do. A lot of them also do, and you'll see the same design again, UV DTF stickers. And I have another tutorial on exactly how to do that. And I'll toss you guys over there. All of the information, links, text, everything is in the description below. If you're looking for personalized same-day one-on-one support, I offer all of that through Silhouette You. See you soon.